With the Minnesota Vikings fired general manager Rick Spielman as well as head coach Mike Zimmer, and then hired a new GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and new head coach Kevin O'Connell, the feeling was like, oh, it's a new day, a new dawn, a breath of fresh air. Oh, the young, innovative minds are in charge now. No more toxic culture, toxic workplace, no more fear-driven culture, blah, 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 all that stuff. And Vikings fans were fully on board. And then the offseason started. And so we've been sort of incommunicado the last couple of days, actually. Is that kind of nice, but just taking the temperature of the fan base rectally, it seems like a lot of Vikings fans are ready to jump ship already on the new regime, mainly because of the extension of Kirk, Jerome, Ezekiel Cousins, where it's like, okay, so you're going to roll with Kirk in 2022. It was it was unwieldy to work with that current contract, so the only real option was to extend Kirk Cousins by a year, kick the can, give him some more money, and roll with him this year and next year, blah, 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 right? So that's where a lot of fans have issue. And I understand, man. So sometimes chasing good money after bad is a bad decision. But, I mean, Kirk was not the issue last year. Kirk was actually pretty damn good. And I think Kevin O'Connell's previous relationship with Kirk, he knows Kirk better than anyone else in that building. And if he is ready, because remember, there's only 32 of these jobs. So Kevin O'Connell is putting it on the table that, hey, I can win games. I can do something with Kirk Cousins for the next 2 years, and we're going to have him on the cap for the next 4 years. So I do believe that we can get something done with Kirky, even though he's starting to get up there in age, even though he has perennially been a top 8 to 10 quarterback. Will he ever ascend to the heights? Who knows? Can I work my magic like we did with Matthew Stafford with the Rams last year? Possibly. But since Kirk Cousins has always been just a money vacuum on the Vikings, it just seemed unpalatable. And I understand it from a Vikings fan perspective, where now Kirk Cousins has had 6 years, $185 million fully guaranteed from the Vikings, and the Vikings are going to be in a rough cap shape again with his contract next year, and then also they're going to have some dead in 2024 if and when they do move on for Kirk Cousins. So I understand that. But what else did you want them to do? Right? What were the other feasible options? Now, I understand that trading Kirk Cousins, something that we've talked about, but what if the trade comp wasn't there? We're talking about, hey, all of the picks that they gave up for Russell Wilson in Denver, or Carson Wentz was basically given away to Washington, just get that money off of our books. What if the Kirk Cousins trade comp offers, and there was some trade interest. It's been reported that some teams had inquired about Kirk Cousins. What if it was much closer to Carson Wentz than it was Russell Wilson? Right? Would you have been fine with the Vikings trading Kirk Cousins for a 3rd-round pick? Is that what you're going to do? Right? So I get the frustration, but KOC, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, they're putting their reputation on the line because they're going to live with either Kirk Cousins as a quarterback of their team or Kirk Cousins on their books for the first few years of their regime. And it could be the only years of their regime if this thing goes sideways. So like I said, O'Connell knows and trusts Kirk Cousins, and I think that they can get something done. But beyond that, I mean, letting go of Xavier Woods, letting go of Mason Cole, that's fine. I mean, Mason Cole, I would like to have back, but wasn't going to pay him $5 million a year. Same thing with Xavier Woods. And also releasing Michael Pierce, replacing him with Harrison Phillips, who is younger, who is more versatile, and also cheaper. I do understand that move. So even because we knew going into free agency that the Vikings at their current cap status, even though they freed up $14 million by redoing Kirk Cousins' deal with the extension, they weren't going to be major players. Like, they weren't going to be hitting home runs or grand salamis out there. But Harrison Phillips, as well as Jordan Hicks, especially at $5 million per, I mean, those are solid base knocks. So I'm perfectly fine with how they progressed in free agency so far. Also bringing back Jordan Berry, who was a great puncher last year, tendering Greg Joseph, who was great last season, kicking besides the Arizona game. It's whatever. But it all starts and ends with Kirk Cousins. Now, the Vikings can still free up cap space. They can still add a veteran interior offensive lineman. They can add some veteran help at cornerback. I think a lot of those moves do make sense. J.C. Treader one time, Bryce Callahan, Kyle Fuller one time on the outside, around the outside. We'll see what happens there. But I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit too reactionary. I feel like it is a little bit too emotionally pent up about Kirk Cousins. But, I mean, remember, Kirk was pretty damn good last season. Remember, with a head coach who actively disdained him and was working against him throughout most of his career here, and also a first-time play caller in Clint Kubiak who was just trying to figure things out. I mean, Kirk Kirk was on brand. So he was top 10 in most of the statistical categories. He was tied for fourth in quarterback rating. He had the second most fourth quarter game-winning drives or comebacks. He would have been first in the league if things against Cincinnati and Arizona held up. And legitimately ask yourself this question. Who would the Vikings have gotten this year who would have been better than Kirk? Kirk with Kevin O'Connell, an offensive-minded genius or supposed genius. Hopefully he's going to be a genius. Who would have done better? I like Kellen Mond, but he's a wild card. I like some of these quarterbacks in the draft, but those certainly aren't a sure things. What are we going to do? Bring in Trubisky Ponder? Bring in Marcus Mariota? I would have been fine to Mariota as a bridge quarterback in conjunction with a rookie quarterback, but looking to win games in 2022 because this roster massively underachieved last year. It's a miracle they went 8-9. With everything that was going on behind the scenes, but they do have the talent to have double-digit wins, to win the division, to make some noise in the playoffs, and Kirk can be that guy in 2022. And you could say, well, they could still get a better quarterback in the draft 2023. Kirk's contract doesn't preclude them from drafting a quarterback. It would be if they had that contract as is this year, 1 year. The Vikings still easily could have drafted a quarterback this year. They could still look to do that next year. If Kirk Cousins doesn't look like he's going to be the future beyond 2023, then they can start estate planning, whether it's Mon, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's rookie quarterback TBD next year, or hell, they can still draft a quarterback in the draft this year. Like if the right guy gets to the second round, I mean, what's to stop them from taking Desmond Ridder or Carson Strong in the second round? Nothing. Nada. Nothing. So I understand. I get the frustration around Kirk Cousins. He is probably the most polarizing athlete in Minnesota sports history outside of Joe Mauer. I mean, he's getting there, though. But I think that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi said, hey, we want to be competitive right out of the gate. We want to win games right now. Kirk Cousins is the way to do that. We had to extend him at least 1 year to get some cap relief this year to keep some of the guys together. Because, again, what would you rather have them do? Keep Kirk Cousins on his 1 year deal because they weren't going to trade him away for a third or fourth round pick, and then having to cut Thielen, having to cut Harrison, having to cut Daniil, having to cut Dalvin, or some combination of that. No. So it is very tough being a Vikings fan. It's even tougher if you just beat yourself up over every single move that they make. So I'm continuing to have faith in this new regime. I want to see what they do this offseason, see what they do the rest of free agency and constructing this roster, getting in the draft, assembling some talent, and then Kevin O'Connell actually getting onto the field, being the head coach of the entire team, rebuilding this entire defense, Donatell getting after it, and then Kevin O'Connell getting the most out of Kirk Cousins and then hoisting that Jerome Barty one time. Also, getting Justin Jefferson that Cooper Kupp level work. Woo! Let's go, man. Come on. But your thoughts are thoughts. Vikings fans already hate the new regime? Question mark. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skull Production Value.